My dad's close friend keeps infantilizing me to piss me off, and my dad refuses to stop him, so now I'm goo goo gaga, never speaking to him again. Plus 2 updates. Original post. 42 years ago, my dad met Harold through mutual friends, and they hit it off. I was 18 and in college when I met him, and we never had a close relationship. However, he always seemed to think of himself as a family friend and was extremely infantilizing and condescending toward me every time I saw him. I tried to tell myself it wasn't that bad, only for him to prove me wrong less than a minute later. Harold would disrespect my boundaries, say things like, "You're not 19, you're a baby," while I was talking to other people, and patronize my education or my hobbies whenever he had the chance. He always noticed that it annoyed me, to which he'd playfully ask if I hated him. I always said no, but only for my father's sake. The final straw came the day Harold interrupted a barbecue to say, "I really like you, even though you're an impolite brat." I was 20 years old. I'd been quiet all day, working on a paper during the barbecue, but replied patiently and politely whenever anyone addressed me. Even if that hadn't been the case, I knew he didn't have the right to talk to me like that. After that, I started making an effort to avoid any events I knew he'd be attending. Yesterday was my father's girlfriend's birthday, and they threw a small lunch party at my dad's apartment. I went there with my fiancée and our 6-month-old son. Harold was there. I hadn't seen him in months, but he still talked to me as if I were a dumb child. Never mind that I'm engaged, a mother, and 26 years old. I spent the whole party ignoring his helpful advice about me being too young to get married or be a mom. It helped that most of the other guests seemed to disagree with him. My baby spent most of the afternoon sleeping. There's a bassinet in my old room. He woke up hungry. So I went to breastfeed him and excused myself from the party for a while. When I returned, I was met with jokes and comments, all from Harold, about how I was probably struggling if my son was managing to keep me away for so long. He went on to interrupt a conversation I was having with another one of my dad's friends to question pretty much everything about my parenting. He doesn't even have custody of his daughter. By the way, he also made more comments about my age. I decided I couldn't take it anymore after he asked if I had thought about giving my baby up for adoption. I got my son and told my fiancée we were leaving. We said goodbye to everyone, except Harold. When we got to the door, Harold came to ask why we were leaving. I tried to make up an excuse, but he kept trying to make us stay. After a small back and forth, he jokingly asked if I hated him, and this time I said, "Yes, I do. Can we go now?" He didn't say anything, and we left. On the way home, my fiancé said he was proud of me. My father called this morning to say the opposite, and we had a small fight but ultimately decided to drop the subject. I'm sure this isn't over, but if it keeps going, it won't be because of me. This is far from my proudest moment, and a small part of me regrets it, but I'm done with that guy. Edit. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of comments to answer. Some common questions. I don't think Harold is in love with me. Harold didn't tell me to give up my son. He asked if I had thought of doing so when I got pregnant. It was still an awful question, especially since he interrupted a conversation I was having with someone else, my dad's girlfriend's pregnant friend, who was asking about my own pregnancy and delivery, to ask it. I don't like making a big deal out of things unless necessary. If I'm uncomfortable, I leave. If I don't like someone, I avoid them. It's usually less stressful. The fight between my father and me ended when I told him about the adoption comment. I don't think he understands that's not the only reason I left, but it was definitely the final straw. I really don't need my father to stop being friends with Harold. He's a grown man capable of making his own crappy decisions. I never told my dad I hated Harold because I never thought I had to like him in the first place. He's my father's friend, not mine, and I've been distancing myself from Harold since I was 20, meaning I haven't seen him much in the last 6 years. My fiancé was on the other side of the room and wasn't listening to Harold's comments. I filled him in when we got to the car. He's 100% on my side. Update 1. Hey guys, I wasn't going to write an update, but I just got some free time, so I figured I'd fill you in. I'll start by addressing the very frequent assumption that Harold has feelings for me. I really don't think that's the case. His comments always came across as annoying and condescending, but never intimate. That said, your comments scared the hell out of me, and the fact that the general consensus was screw Harold was weirdly heartwarming. I also want to add that while I did regret what I said a little, I never doubted I'd done the right thing. I think most of my regret came from realizing that my 8 years of keeping the peace were over. It took some time for the relief to sink in. Truth be told, I've been wanting to do this since the barbecue incident, which was when I went from "I don't like that guy" to "I can't stand that guy." My father called Harold the day after I made my previous post. When confronted about the adoption comment, Harold tried to twist it as him being genuinely concerned about me becoming a mom so soon and claimed that he didn't think I knew what I was doing. He did apologize to my father, but I don't buy any of that. The next day, my dad told me about the call. He said I should forgive Harold for what he thought was an honest misunderstanding. He also told me I should apologize too, since I'd overreacted by telling Harold I hated him for such a small reason. Many of Harold's past comments were made with my father nearby. They often happened in the middle of conversations with other people, so he'd be too distracted to notice. Even when he was present, he didn't register them. My dad doesn't pay enough attention to anything that doesn't either concern or anger him, and he'll likely forget it until something else upsets him later. He's like a wound-up goldfish. We also have different definitions of what's offensive, so he'd never think those comments were a big deal. I told my father I wasn't exaggerating when I said I hated Harold, and that the adoption comment was far from the only reason. I listed most of the condescending treatment and comments I could remember, including the ones from the party. He didn't remember any of them. I made it clear that I had hated Harold for years before the party and that I had nothing to apologize for. I then stated that I'm no longer coming to any events Harold is invited to. My father doesn't need to stop being friends with him or stop inviting him, but he can no longer expect me to show up as well. I'll ask him beforehand, and if he lies, I'll leave. My father called me dramatic. But I pointed out that I've been avoiding Harold for 6 years, and no one even noticed, so it clearly wasn't a problem. I've only seen Harold a handful of times since the barbecue incident, and only twice for more than a few minutes the lunch party last week and another party back when I was pregnant. It obviously didn't ruin my father's life. I'm not obliged to like his friends any more than he is to like mine. There was some back and forth, but he agreed to my terms. We spoke yesterday about something else, and he mentioned Harold was upset. I ignored that. I'm not going no contact with my father. Yes, I'm very well aware he's a jerk, and I came really close to cutting ties with him in the last few years, but I ultimately decided it wouldn't really fix anything. Maintaining my relationship with him has gotten a lot easier since I moved out, as we only see each other a couple of times a month. He gets frustrated that I don't call or text much, but he doesn't complain about it anymore. I don't see the point in going no contact with someone who no longer has any say in how I live my life. I'd rather just take note of what my father did wrong when I was growing up and make sure to raise my own kid differently. He's on thin ice though, and has been for some time. He's not allowed to babysit, mostly because I don't trust him to spend more than an hour alone with a baby without falling asleep on the couch. I started pushing for him to go to therapy back when I got pregnant, and he finally began in June. His behavior around me and my younger sister, who still lives between our very divorced parents, has improved a lot since then, and I've made it clear that he won't be allowed near my son if he stops attending. This is the first time in my life my father has improved his behavior. It's hard to be hopeful, but I'm trying. And if I ever do go no contact with my father, it won't be because of effing Harold. So that's it. Overall, I'm glad I don't have to deceive anyone anymore. My relationship with my father is rocky, but I won't dwell on it. My main responsibilities are my son, my fiance, my job, and that's not changing anytime soon. Update 2. Hey guys, wow, I can't believe it's been over a year since I last posted about this. I planned on updating earlier, but these past few months I've been caught up with raising a toddler, getting married yay, working like crazy, and rewatching old TV shows. Needless to say, I've been busy. Openly avoiding Harold has been working pretty well. My father has been respecting my boundaries. Whenever he invites me and my husband over for lunch or dinner, I ask who else will be there. If Harold's coming, he tells me. He hasn't lied so far and doesn't usually insist when I tell him I'm not coming. Since my last post, I've only seen Harold once at my dad's birthday party a few months ago. Yes, I knew he'd be there. My father promised he'd tell him not to talk to me. Also, some of my father's friends' kids, most of whom I used to babysit, would be there. I hadn't seen them in a while, and I love them more than I hate Harold. I ended up spending most of the party with my son and the kids. Harold didn't talk to me at all, so I guess my father was true to his word. My husband and I did catch him staring at us a couple of times, but I decided to ignore it. I caught my husband staring back once, and the walking marshmallow actually managed to look threatening. I love this man. You know who did talk to me? Harold's girlfriend. Yes, he has one now. She interacted with me twice. First, she came over to CO over my son before making a comment about how he needed a haircut. Ha ha ha, I already hate you. Later, she approached me and said, "You're shy, aren't you?" I said no, and she laughed and said, "Yeah, you're shy." She said all that in the same tone one would use to talk to a 6-year-old. I managed to keep my expression neutral, otherwise I would have told her, "I'm not shy, I just chose to spend the whole party with the kids because they were better company than you and your annoying boyfriend." So yeah, based on both my interactions with her, Harold's girlfriend is insufferable. In other words, they're perfect for each other. I don't have much else to add. My father broke up with the woman he was dating last year, long story, and now has a new girlfriend. She's neither annoying nor psychotic, and I actually really like her. They won't last a year. My relationship with my father is still not perfect, but it has improved. He's actually started apologizing to me a lot more. I don't know whether it's the therapy or the fact that motherhood has apparently made me terrifying, but I'll take it. And credit where it's due, he's a very good grandfather. I'm also glad my father is respecting this Harold boundary. I very much don't want that man in my life. Honestly, I'm pretty satisfied right now. My little boy's thriving. Part of me really misses the baby stage, but I grow prouder every day. Getting to know my kid has been fantastic.